Hi guys, welcome to Winsome Country Garden. My name is Hannah. I'm so glad that you decided to join me today. Today we are actually continuing on the last video we posted where we harvested a ton of tomatoes in the garden. I actually intended to finish that video doing some preserving work, but it was going to get really long, so I decided to split it into two. So let's head inside to see what we did with the tomatoes we just harvested. My brother Ian is going to be leading this expedition to can all of the tomatoes that we harvested earlier in this video. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and along the way we will explain what we are doing, though I'll add the caveat that I don't know what I'm doing. And Ian knows a lot more than me, but we are by no means experts. So if you have any advice for us that you'd like to add down in the comment section below, feel free to do so. And we're just kind of walking through what we do. The one thing that I will say is we're going to be referencing this book, which is The Complete Book of Home Preserving by Ball, which Ian has used a lot. So obviously I have no affiliation with this, but it's a really great tool as you're learning how to do some more preserving of food. So this is my brother Ian, and he's going to explain a little bit more about what we're doing today, which is called raw packing. What's the game plan for today?
So first thing we want to do is get our pots boiling. We want to sanitize our jars and our lids. So what I'm doing here is filling the stock pot that we're going to be doing the processing in. I want to get the level to a point where once all the quarts are in, it'll be enough to cover them all, but not enough to overflow, obviously. So right now we're just trying to figure out how many jars we're gonna need, and then we'll figure it out.
Yeah, and so these, to remind you guys, this is what we harvested this week that we're gonna be doing a lot of preserving for. Some of it we might keep for fresh, and we won't do anything with these guys. But then this is actually what we harvested last week, and it will also be being preserved. So as Ian is kind of looking at the jars and figuring stuff out, I'm going to start prepping the tomatoes, which if I'm remembering correctly, is I'm going to pull off all of the any greenery that's left and do like a cross hatch on the top of the tomato.
Right on the stem.
Right, we're going to do a cross hatch right where the stem is, and we'll put them in boiling water, pull them out, put them in cold water so we can slip the skins off. So we'll set you guys up as we get this process started, and we'll kind of pop in with more explanations as we go. So Ian gave me a tip earlier that instead of trying to pull these green things, which can be hard, it's easier to push them to the side. Okay, so we've just been waiting for this to boil. Everything has boiled, and we're getting ready to stick the tomatoes in.
Basically what you're looking for when you're blanching the tomatoes is for the skin to crack. It takes about 30 seconds or so.
Do you usually do it tomato by tomato, or?
No, I was just kind of
Looking to see how
long it would take.
Oh, there it is, and that's the 30-second mark exactly.
So then it goes right into the ice water, and that's what will allow the skin to separate even more from the tomato.
How long does it have to stay in the ice water?
It doesn't matter. Pretty much just till it's cool to the touch, or it can stay in there for a little longer if you're doing your batches.
Okay.
But yeah, and at this point, fairly easy to just go in and slip the skin off to the top and off. Oops.
And then does that go straight in, or does it get cut
No,
up?
now at this point we would take the stem off. Just because that's a bit of a fibrous bite if you eat the end product and it's not taken off. So we'll cut into them and take the core out.
Editing Hannah here. I just want to pop in real quick and apologize in advance for the audio you're about to hear. During this process, we had actually turned on a fan above the stove and forgot to turn it off. So I've done my best to try and clean up this audio, but rather than scrap this whole process, I thought I would still show it to you with the disclaimer that the audio is really bad in the next little bit, and I hope you forgive me. So Ian sanitized the jars. They've been in here for a long time, so they're nice and clean. He also sanitized the lids already.
Cutting board.
This is what they all look like. The sans peels. We're going to cut some of this away.
Alright. Oh, now.
The audio here is particularly bad. So what Ian is reading is actually the book that I referenced earlier that tells us for these quart jars we need half a teaspoon of citric acid and a teaspoon of salt in the bottom of the jar. Okay. So half teaspoon. Okay, so I added citric acid and salt in for the recipe, and Ian is breaking down the tomatoes.
Yeah, so I'll cut them into quarters right on the stem so I can have an exposed bit on each quarter. And then you can just go in and take away at a bias the core on each piece.
What else are you checking for when you do this?
Any bruises that are kind of gnarly looking, you wouldn't want to eat it. I would just take away with a knife.
Can you show us an example of a bruise?
Yeah, so like this is I think the base. Oh no, this would be the top.
It must have split.
So yeah, just a little bit of a bruise at the top of this guy. So yeah, just cut away. Don't have to be too neat about it. And then, so these have the citric acid and the salt?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. And then, for the sake of clean rims, you can have a little funnel. Less wiping later.
You just pack it in?
Yeah. So I just kind of loose pack them in, but then use like a knife to make sure that you're pushing it all down and then there's no air in there. With about a 1/2 inch space from the top, get the air out. Yeah, and they'll kind of release their own juices to fill the bottom.
So you want to have another one?
Yeah.
Is that good?
We're gonna need more. There should be pretty much like no air in there. Doing is kind of just like sticking my knife in and pushing the tomatoes to one side to allow the liquid to fall down to the bottom.
You top it with water at the end?
No.
There's like air there.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Does like tapping it help at all to get air bubbles out, or not really?
Probably. Yeah, there's a little bit. It's not the biggest deal if there are a few little pockets, but you want to do your best to make sure it's almost all out.
Because where there's air, there's a chance for bacteria to grow.
Yeah. And then we're processing it for 100 or an hour and 25 minutes, so that's meant to kill any residual bacteria that would be there, but the less air pockets, the more likely you're going to be safe.
So that took a good chunk of the
Yeah, we'll probably only get one more
of the
Paulrobesons.
Okay. It looks pretty though.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll stick that to the side and fill the others. Okay, so you saw me wipe the rims clean so that it's a nice clean start, and now we're going to get the lids on, which have already been sanitized, as I said before, as well as the bands, the things that like tighten in. Okay, so it didn't record, but what you missed out, we put the lids on the jars. We ended up getting 2 jars of Paul Robesons, 2 jars of San Marzanos, and 1 jar of a mixture of the two. We put the lids on using a little doodad that's got a magnet on it, so you don't introduce any bacteria to it, and then you just hand tighten the jar before putting them in this, because what did you say, Ian? Baking them creates a vacuum?
Yeah, the heat in the water bath creates a vacuum that pulls down the seal of the lid, and that's how you can tell if it's sealed or not. If you can push down on the top of the lid and it springs back, you know that the seal is broken, because there's no vacuum pulling it down.
That means you need to eat it quickly.
Yeah, you need to either, you can reseal them, you can give it another shot with another processing, but sometimes it's not quite worth it and you just want to eat it quickly.
Yeah, okay. And this water bath is actually not quite as high as it needs to be. The can should be underwater, so we are boiling some water in our handy dandy electric kettle to add to the top. And my mom's also making breakfast while we're doing this, which you may have seen in the background. Pancakes, eggs, and sausage. You may have seen a lot of moving in the background. My parents actually had some hardwood floor installed recently, and they have been painting. The painting's not quite finished. They did the painting themselves, but this whole floor basically got painted, though they hired someone to do the floors. But some of the furniture is being moved back while there is help here. Okay, hopefully this kettle is enough. It's gonna be close. Is that enough? Just
Perfect.
over? Yay! Perfect amount. So now we wait till it comes to a hard boil, and we set a timer for 1 hour and 25 minutes. Okay, I actually just took these out. That's what all that produce has turned into, and you can kind of see that the liquid is separated a little bit more. And that's really all that's to it. We're gonna sit. There's a couple of these that haven't completely sealed yet, so we will let them cool down, and as they seal, they'll kind of create that vacuum we talked about and suck it in. I thought you guys might like to see what we do with some of the produce we make. And like I said, we're not experts by any means, but hopefully that gives you an idea of something you can do even if you're not an expert either. It always helps to just try. So thank you for joining me in this video, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Bye-bye.